Welcome everyone to Repvile Replay. Today I want to take a trip back in time to the system that started my lifelong love for video games, the Atari 2600. I first played the Atari somewhere around 1980. I would have been 4 years old or so at the time. I remember visiting some distant relatives who had a Sears Heavy Sixer, playing either Missile Command or Space Invaders. Eventually my grandmother picked up the wood grain 2600 where I'd play Combat and Stampede. And eventually, somewhere around my 7th birthday, 1983, I was fortunate enough, because of the sudden price drop in video games, to get my very own Atari 2600. Gone was the wood grain that everyone is so nostalgic about today. No, no, no. Mine was a sleek black, sinister Atari that is fondly referred to today as the Vader. It came with Pac-Man as a packed-in game. We all knew it was off, but we played the hell out of it anyhow, and loved it. I recall buying my first game with my own money, Yar's Revenge, arguably one of the best games on the system. Eventually I picked up Pitfall 2 and met the pinnacle achievement of the Atari 2600 library. As with all things, I eventually moved on to something else, the Sega Master System. That's a story for another time, however. And unfortunately, as we grow up, a consequence a lot of us face from that generation. Our Transformers, G.I. Joes, and Ataris were stored away in garages, closets, and our grandmother's basements, eventually being given away or sold off at yard sales for spare change, as was the case with my own 2600. After all these years, I've never procured a replacement 2600. I do, however, have an Atari 7800. A fantastic system in its own right, and it just happens to be backwards compatible with most of the Atari 2600 library. Unfortunately, my 7800 isn't working. It's only decided to display a black and white picture, and sometimes a hint of yellow. So today I'm going to review what hopefully is a suitable replacement, the Atari Flashback Portable from AtGames. Now I know what you're thinking, it's AtGames, it's probably a piece of crap. I don't know, hopefully we'll be pleasantly surprised. So I need to thank my friend Mark, aka NML32. You can check out his YouTube channel. I'd like to thank him for letting me borrow this Atari Flashback so I can do a review on it. Alright, so let's take a look at the box here. So the first thing you'll see, it says 60 built-in games. Now this isn't an AtGames device, so I know what you're thinking. It's probably got a bunch of crap games also added in. Well, actually this one doesn't. So to my surprise, this actually is mostly Atari licensed games. A couple homebrews like most of the other flashback devices, and some unreleased stuff. As you can see, there are some heavy hitters on here. You've got Yar's Revenge, you've got the unreleased Yar's Returns, Aqua Venture, a really fantastic port of Frogger, Radar Lock was a great game, Centipede, Millipede. But then you have some really questionable games like Pong, Atari Math, and Hangman. So AtGames, if any of you ever hear this, seriously, let me be real for a second. We didn't want to do math on our Ataris in 1983, and we sure as hell don't want to do math on a portable Atari in 2018. This is the type of bullshit that makes you such a joke. But I digress. Let's get to the unboxing. Alright, let's open this thing up. So you've got a nice, beautiful Atari logo right there. Instruction manual on top. Everything's packaged in a eco-friendly cardboard container. Got the instruction manual. That is a USB charger. It does have a rechargeable battery, so that's pretty cool. I like the sleek black look of it. It does remind me of my old Atari Vader system. Honestly, it's exactly like the Sega Genesis portable. I kind of like the color scheme on this one a little bit better though. So on the top here you've got an AV out, you've got the spot for your USB charger, SD card, and the volume knob. And on the bottom there's your on-off switch and the headphone jack. So here's the Atari compared to the Sega Genesis portable. As you can see, the cases are pretty much exactly the same. The only real difference I see is the screen size of the Atari is a little bit smaller, and the texture of the D-pad I like better on the Atari because it doesn't have that weird texture to it. And here you could see a little bit better what I'm talking about with the screen size. It is just a little bit smaller than the Sega Genesis. Just a little bit more of a comparison. You see all the provisions, card slots, volumes, everything is in the same spot as the Genesis. Here's the only real big difference. The Genesis does have a removable battery port, so if you needed to change that battery out, it would be a lot easier. Let's just take a look at the instruction manual for a second. So on the first page, you see what all the buttons do. It tells you all, everything you need to know. And here on the back, kind of like in the old instruction manuals that come with the games, it just tells you a little bit about the game, like a quick story or whatever. Alright, I think it's about time we fire this puppy up and check out what it can do. So there's a boot screen. This is the main menu. Kind of looks like old, like the labels on the carts. That's pretty cool. You got the image of the box art on the side. That's nice. What is... Yeah. So you've got 2 rows on each page, but I can tell you right now, it's not very intuitive to get to the second row. You've got to like arrow down all the way instead of just hitting over. Hitting over will take you to the next page. So that right there for me pretty much sucks. I don't like the menu. I'll be honest, as ugly as the Fire Core menu is on the Genesis, I think I would rather have that than however this is working. This is a little unintuitive. Alright, so I'm just going to check out a couple games and just show you how it plays. I can tell you right now, the screen looks good. The screen's bright enough that I think it's pretty adequate. It looks a hell of a lot better than something, you're playing an old Game Gear or something. Much better. So I hope the gameplay comes out okay. I'm playing through a viewfinder, so this probably looks a lot better in person than it is going to look on the video here. And it's really hard to play through the viewfinder. Let's check out another game here. Alright, so let's check out Circus Tari, which is a paddle game, and I have a feeling this is going to play like absolute stupidity. And I'm right. I don't know why they would put a paddle game on here, because it does not translate very well to using the D-pad. I never cared for these damn games anyways, to be honest, but it seems to be much, much more difficult. Almost unplayable at this point. So let's check out Frog Pond, which is either an unreleased game or a homebrew. But it was on, I think they first put it on the Atari Flashback 2. This is a really cool game. It's a lot like Frogs and Flies, except it's basically you against the clock instead of another person. I don't know why, but I have a lot of fun playing this game. And it's translated pretty well to the portable. So this just goes on for a while till it gets dark, and basically it's you trying to score a bunch of points. But it's a cool game, I like it. This is not the Atari Frogger. Nope, they put a really good port of Frogger on here. I'm not sure where this came from, but it's a lot better than the Atari version. Okay, so I'm going to show you a game here that I missed out on when it was released back in like 1989. I would have loved this game, man. This really shows off like what the Atari could have been capable of. I mean, look at this. This gameplay's fantastic. It's a lot like Afterburner. And as far as control-wise, everything is controlling really, decent on this, except for the paddle games. Alright, so I'm gonna show you the SD card browser. My buddy he was cool enough to put a SD card in here with some games on it, so I'm gonna show you like what the emulation is like on that with a couple games. As you can see, when you put the SD card in, it brings up the Firecore browser just like the Genesis. Now I did put another SD card slot in here just to see if it might play the Genesis games. It doesn't even see the card. What's interesting is I put this card in the Genesis and it sees the ROMs but doesn't play it, so obviously that's due to the emulation. So here we've got Chopper Command. This is one of my favorite games on the Atari. To me, this probably got the most gameplay, aside from maybe Yar's Revenge. But honestly, I think this is my favorite game that's on the Atari 2600. Fortunately, it's really hard to play through the stupid viewfinder right now, so. But it is very playable. Alright, let's take a look at Dig Dug. This ain't a bad port, really. And honestly, like, it's got great sound to it. If I could change one other thing about this system, I think I would put the fire button maybe at the top right instead of where it's at. To me, it seems like that would have been a much better choice. This is another great game. I wish something like this was on the system. I mean, I would have took some of the stupid games off like Pong and put some Magic games on if I could have, you know, been the one to pick the games on. Something like this and Demon Attack, Atlantis. Now those would have been 3 great games. But I know obviously there must be like licensing issues. Atari probably said, this is the games you get, whatever, this is what you're gonna put on. Some of the games just don't make sense to me. But I mean, on the other hand, you do have an SD card slot. You can pretty much put just about any Atari game on here. I don't think everyone works. There is a compatibility list out there of the ones that don't. If you go on Atari Age, I think it's out there. I mean, video checkers, video chess. Is anybody really like wanting to play chess on the portable Atari? Alright guys, so there you go. That was the Atari Flashback Portable. So what do I think of it? And would I recommend it? You know, that's kind of a mixed bag there. Honestly, it all depends on what your goal is with this thing. If you're a hardcore Atari fan and you really want to play Atari 2600 games on the go, I don't think you could do wrong with this. I mean, it's got an SD card. You can put tons of games into it. If you're not looking to take it on the road, I think you'd be better off with, you're not trying to add a bunch of games to it. I think you're probably better off with one of the normal flashback models, like the Flashback Gold. Because they do come with a bunch of other games. You know, this comes with 60. I think those are up to 120 or something. So that's something to think about. And here's the other thing. It is an AtGames device. The build quality is suspect on all their stuff. So I think about like the longevity of it. Is it going to last a long time? I guess that remains to be seen. So far, I like the device. If I find one for a decent price box, I'll probably pick one up because I do like it. I probably won't play it a lot just because it's hard for me to go back and play the 2600 games now. I'm fine playing NES and Genesis. It's difficult to get into some of the old Atari games at this point for me. So overall, yeah, I would recommend the thing. It's not bad. I mean, it's pretty decent for what it is. It's got a nice screen, SD card slot. You can pump, you know, a bunch of games into it. So bottom line, it's not my old Vader system, but if I find one in the future for a good deal, I'm definitely going to pick one up and add it to the collection. Okay guys, thanks for sticking around towards the end. Hope you all enjoyed the review. If you did, one of the greatest compliments you could give me is to subscribe to the channel. Give it a like if you could. That really helps, get some visibility on here. I hate begging for likes, I don't want to sound like that, but every like does really help small channels like mine. Okay, so thanks for watching, and guys, make sure you take time out of your day to get your game on. Thanks.